Hi there, I'm Haruka. This video is coming out after my birthday. So, for my birthday, I'm gonna have some fun and tell you all about one of the weirdest anime I've ever found. And then I'm gonna tell you about how I'd make it even weirder. Valkyrie Drive Mermaid is a trashy, ecchi yuri anime from 2015. It was actually the first part in a series of Valkyrie Drive media. First it was the anime, Mermaid, then it was the PS Vita game, Bikuni, and finally a mobile game, Siren, which was shut down in 2016. It was also made by Studio Arms. Arms is probably best known for their work on Elfen Lied back in 2004 and Maoyu Mao Yusha in 2013. You might also recognize them from their work in hentai. Personally, I'm familiar with the 2003 classic Nikutai Teni, where people switch bodies after fucking. Despite making legitimate anime, they still had some coming out in 2005. Anyway, Mermaid was actually their last full-length anime. They made an OVA in 2019 after 3 years of silence, but in 2020 they filed for bankruptcy and closed down. Now, this show had an amazing concept, but I feel like its biggest issue was that it didn't know which direction it wanted to go. There's a fork in the road, and the writers just sort of decided to keep going straight, which I guess is still an option. Fuck Robert Frost, am I right? So I want to bring you guys to that point and then tell you what I think the two paths should have been. And then I'll tell you which one is my favorite and why. Two things before we start. Obviously, this is going to be spoilers, and if you want to watch along, the dub is the one that's uncensored. I believe the sub is censored from what I found. You're going to want to hop on that. So there's a disease in this world that only affects girls. There are two types of girls, liberators and exters. Liberators can activate the power of the exters, and exters turn into massive weapons when sexually stimulated by a liberator. Anyway, once a girl with the disease hits puberty, they just sort of shoot him onto an island. Our main girl is Momori, whose surname is spelled like virgin. She's an exter and she's been sent to this island. She's saved by a delinquent-looking ex-soldier liberator named Mirai. Apparently, there's this whole society on this island called Velter, led by the only boy on the island, Akira, and his sadistic second-in-command, Charlotte. And then there's Meifong, who runs a gambling and smuggling ring. She actually doesn't use an exter, she uses money as a weapon. She is sexually stimulated by money. She's helping out Torino Town, a splinter cell of the group that's less organized and more wholesome. Also want to mention Lady Lady, who is a tag team of two women who swing both ways on being an exter or liberator. So let's get into the story. This is the story before the fork in the road. As I said, there's the Velter faction that is essentially run like a fascist state, controlling all the girls with an iron fist. They try to take Momori, but Mirai protects her, and they end up in Torino Town. There, the story takes a bit of slice of life direction outside of the action as we get relationship development between Mirai and Momori. Like, action slice of life. Back at Velter, you know Akira, the one boy on the island? Kinda sounds like a girl doing an Ikemen voice. That's not a casting decision, that's actually who they are. She's actually a girl that's so hot that Momori turned into a sword just by looking at her. But she was one of the first girls to be sent to the island, so she lied about her gender in order to create the structure of Velter. As the only different person and the only man, everyone would listen to her for some reason. Things start to shift in episode 8 when our main girls explore a hidden facility with Lady Lady. While the tone was a bit inconsistent beforehand, it really starts to get dark as they start unpacking what the facility was used for. They're attacked by some kind of robot cat lady. So to catch up, Mirai was a reject from an army group that used girls with the virus as weapons. She was a reject because they found a way to make an artificial version of them. That is what this robot cat lady is. And as it turns out, Mirai's body was also tampered with when she was in the army, making her very similar to these artificial weapons. She actually fights the artificial weapon, and for the first time, we actually see blood. There are real stakes now that it feels like people can get really hurt. Using their powers to their fullest extent, the girls defeat the robot. But the battle gets the attention of the organization that's keeping them on the island, so they send an envoy. The main one is this Hatsune Miku looking girl named Momoka that starts Lady Macbething Charlotte. Charlotte calls her Francois. She also instantly calls sus on Akira's true identity, and in a fight with Charlotte, Akira is outed and Charlotte is free to rule the island. At which point she does what she always wanted to do, conduct a raid on Torino Town and take all dissenters as prisoners. This is going from a fascist state to a fascist state. This is where the fork in the road hits, by the way. So let's get into the fun route. The first option that they had was a much more lighthearted route. This involves a bit of retconning in here. The facility episode isn't really a facility episode, and we don't see the nastier bits of Mirai's past. It would be something where Charlotte's coup goes through, she does all the mean things, but everything is sort of contained on the island. Those new girls sent by the organization? Well, it's a rival organization that wants to turn all the girls into weapons that has infiltrated Mermaid. Maybe it's still the same organization where Mirai was jettisoned from, but the important distinction is that it's not the people keeping them on the island. The new girls betray Charlotte and the evil organization begins to invade and round up the girls on the island, but over yonder hill it's Lady and our girls ready to save the day. Charlotte has a change of heart and they defeat the evil guys together. They build a better society that isn't fascist or monarchist, or if you see the future and know the fate of the entire series, maybe just have it end with the Gordo organization deciding that they are not a risk to themselves or others and let them all go home. So here's what actually happens. What happens here is that first we learn a bit more about a different couple of characters, Kasumi and Hibiki. They're good friends, they're compatible, and they came to the island around the same time, but Hibiki's been locked in her room for years after sustaining a lot of PTSD from being attacked by the other girls right after she arrived. She will be of tactical importance later. Charlotte really starts taking to her role as monarch. She rounds up all dissenters under gunpoint, she puts every single girl on the island through tests to help Francois and her envoy, and generally just does what she wants with an iron fist. She even essentially crucifies Akira outside the castle. Kasumi is forced into a battle against Mirei when those in the envoy threaten Hibiki. When Kasumi isn't fighting as hard as she should be, Hibiki is brought out over a ledge and threatened. Kasumi refuses to give the killing blow as it is in front of Hibiki, so Momori shows up and helps things out and gives Mirei a weapon to fight with, but doing so alerts the envoy to their presence. Francois, also known as Momoka, once again, I don't know why they decided to change her name in the middle and then change it back. She shows up and they actually have history with Mirei being their former partner back in the military. And Momoka starts talking about killing people, specifically Mirei. Right as she's about to finish off Mirei, Hibiki starts screaming, and as she turns her weapon at her, Lady comes in to stop her. And then Lady just straight up fucks in front of God and everyone, except their power doesn't work on Momoka. The envoy takes Momori and the combatants on the other side are only saved through the help of Meifong. At this point, Momoka shows Charlotte who's really in charge here, and so the betrayal begins. Turns out Momori might actually be so infected with the virus that she is so powerful she can reverse the virus. Momoka holds a grudge against Mirei for all the experiments done on her. Anyway, Mirei heads out and raids the castle, finding Charlotte using the other girls in the envoy. The envoy says that they have the authority to get the girls off the island, so that's why Charlotte is helping with them. The battle doesn't last long. At this point, we realize that the envoy is no longer acting on the orders of the organization, but on their own agenda to take Mamori. Also, Kasumi's finally gotten to use Hibiki as a weapon, so she attacks Momoka to buy Mirei some time. Momoka starts sucking everyone up, and Mirei is now trapped inside the sword, which is actually a tentacle hentai scene where everyone is getting the virus sucked out of them. Momoka blocks an orbital strike and then destroys the satellite, revealing on her way back down the other 4 quarantine islands that she's planning on destroying as well. But Mirei breaks free of her tentacles and then breaks Mamori out of her chains inside the sword. The sword spits everyone back out. There's a very short battle between Mirei and Mamori and Momoka / the other soldiers. Everyone helps, even the random giant girl from the One Slice of Life episode. Momoka is defeated and everyone has just the virus sucked out of them by Mamori and Mirei. And then it ends with them going out to suck off everyone they possibly can alongside Lady and Meifong. So now I want to tell you about the dark route. So this path starts back with Momoka showing up in that battle against Mirei. She said she's ready to kill and has no problem doing so she does kill. Specifically, she kills Hibiki. There is no Lady Ex Machina. Hibiki dies in Kasumi's arms. Kasumi attacks Momoko but is almost immediately struck down, and instead of saving Hibiki, Lady saves Kasumi. Lady realizes that they're absolutely outmatched right away and attempts to speed off with everyone on the bike. But Mamori gets picked up off the bike and Mirei watches as they drive away out of danger. We learn the same things about Mamori and Momoka, but we see Charlotte realize what's happening and she falters a bit. It's then that the other girls in the envoy use her as a liberator against her will, effectively using her hate and feelings of superiority to fuel a drive. Speaking of hate and rage, Kasumi offers her body to Mirei for use in the upcoming battle. To this point, there's no confirmation of whether Kasumi is a liberator or an exter, so let's call her an exter, retcon her being a liberator, just so that this moment works. While Lady and Akira team up to take on Charlotte and the soldiers, Mirei and Kasumi hunt down Momoka. The two battles happen simultaneously and take a lot longer. Charlotte stands over Akira and Lady ready to kill them, but she has a sudden crisis of confidence. She didn't want to kill Akira, she wanted Akira's power. And now Akira is powerless, but she hasn't obtained that power that she wanted. Charlotte turns to attack Momoka. This is the moment where Momoka whips out Mamori's new ability to absorb people. Charlotte and the other soldiers are absorbed into the sword. But this isn't like in the original where they're just held in the sword. They are destroyed as they enter and Charlotte is dead. Momoka goes on her power trip and starts monologuing because let's face it, she's got the time to do so now. Around the corner, Meifong is trying to get Akira and Lady back on their feet, but something's wrong with, let's say, Lady J, who's been injured by debris from one of the blasts. Lady is attempting to drive, but they can't. They've been cured. All around, the rest of this rebellion is seeing the extras stop working as Momoko continues explaining that Mamori has now cured all of them, making them all easier to slaughter. All of them except Kasumi, who remains as a weapon. The fight now rages on, but Kasumi starts flickering. Clearly her rage was all that was keeping her going, and it's no longer enough anymore. But Mirai has put Momoko on the back foot, taking Mamori away from her. But Mirai, much like Kasumi, can't bring herself to deliver the killing blow in front of someone she cares about. Kasumi comes back from weapon form to find Momoko still alive, beaten, but alive. Kasumi argues with Mirai about what Momoko's fate should be as Momoko comes to. But the moment that Momoko gets to her feet, Kasumi hugs her and jumps off the tower. They fall to their death. In the end, Mamori's drive has cured everyone on the island, but now that they are no longer valuable, they must find a way off themselves. The government doesn't come by to grab them. They must decide whether or not it's worth it to go back home to a place that still has them marked as non-desirables. There's a clear rift now among the girls as Akira tries to convince everyone that it's time to leave. She's lied to them before, who's to say she isn't lying now? The final shot is Mirai and Mamori seeing off Akira and Torino as they set off on a makeshift boat to the mainland, hoping that they can find a way to convince the government to give them passage back home. So was their choice of not really making a choice worth it? I mean, the last one I mentioned was very dark, but that's why it's the dark path. But it does end all of these story arcs in a way that makes sense. And so does the fun arc, technically. It ends all of these story arcs in a way that makes sense. The issue with the original ending is that it tried to split the difference between a happy end and a bad end. Momoko's constant talk of wanting to kill needs to be seen as a real threat. You find stakes when threats are no longer empty. In D&D, a story holds more weight with the possibility of failure. That's why you roll a dice and you hit a crit 1 and then you die. That's what's interesting. What's interesting is when you don't hit that crit 1, but you need to know that it exists. Or if you want a happy end, then you shouldn't be putting too much effort into foreshadowing these dark themes. In the end, it seems like the theme was supposed to be against violence, and it just never really felt like they fully committed to it. The ending is a very non-violent ending, but it never felt like the threat of violence was real with a few specifically timed ex machinas. Violence doesn't just beget violence, violence causes pain. If you want me to see how precious life is, show me. If you want me to understand how precious life is, kill the puppy. I'm not saying that my endings are better, I'm just saying that I feel like I actually committed to something in my endings. It's ultimately up to the individual preference of the viewer. All we know now is that Valkyrie Drive didn't go on to be a success in any avenue, and maybe it's because of that lack of commitment to having a commitment. So that's it. That's not only the end of the video, that is also the last of my pre-recorded episodes. So look forward to some extra new stuff coming soon as I finish up my semester of film school. This video has actually been sponsored by the Lucky Cat Sticker Company. Go buy some damn stickers. Slap them on your laptop, slap them on your car, slap them on your own damn face. I don't care. Go to luckycats.com and enter the code JOCK for 15% off. That's JOCK JOCK for 15% off at luckycats.com. Link in the description. Thank you.